Hello fellow LEGO fans, and welcome back to the tutorial on how to make LEGO building instructions. This time we're going to take our 3D model that we've made in our previous 3 episodes, this guy, and we're going to use LPub3D in order to change the 3D model into a PDF file or a proper building instructions. So what we're going to do is, of course, we open up LPub3D. I'm currently using version 2.3.13 R0, in case you're wondering. I want to mention as well, each version might have each new version might have a flaw that you're not used to, and if that's a function you usually use, you can always roll back to a previous version. It should work as long as you don't go too far back. Okay, so now next thing we're going to do, we're going to actually open up our model. So I'm already in the right folder, of course. So we open up the model, you can see it's going to do some stuff, and it's just going to load in, and we get a first page, and right here on the right we actually have the code that I was talking about. That code, it seems really difficult initially, but believe me, this is actually rather easy to work with and is a really powerful tool in order to make your instructions. So keep that in mind. It seems difficult for now, but I'm going to explain to you how it works, and you're going to notice that it's actually not that difficult and quite easy to understand. Anyway, let's actually get into the page setup, because no one wants to look in building instructions as a portrait page that is completely white. And to be honest, like if you go into the submodels, the page color is going to change, but I mean, like, personal preference, right? I always change it. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually set up the page as to how we want it. So we're going to go to configuration, building instruction setup, and then page setup. So we click that, we get a new pop-up screen. And right here, what we're going to change first and foremost is we're going to change the size and orientation to landscape. And we're going to keep the page size to A4. On bigger models, I do tend to change that to an A3 format, just so I can get a little more detail into a single page, and it mostly affects the detail you find in the model, and that's pretty much it. Now for the background, right now it is white and it's set to submodel level color, which I believe we can change somewhere. I don't know. There we go. Model, then colors. You have submodel level colors right here. You can change them individually, but I'm not going to do that, as I'm not going to use colors. I'm going to use a picture. So we click the submodel level color, then we can go to transparent, solid color, gradient, and picture, and then of course sublevel color. But we're going to choose picture, and I'm going to search for the picture. So I'm going to click browse. Then I'm already in my folder, and just hit images, and I have my backgrounds ready. So I'm going to just click the background, open, and that's it. For borders, if you want a line around the page or border around the page, you can add that. Usually I don't, and I just keep it empty. Margins, this I usually don't change, and header and footer height I also usually don't change. So that's a nice, easy setup, right? So I've changed the settings I wanted to change, and I'm going to hit OK. What you can see is on the code on the right is going to add 2 lines. Here you go. And those 2 lines actually have set my page background. But that's not all that I want to change. I also want to change the parts list, and I want to change the submodels when we get to that. And I want to change the page numbers. So go to configuration again, building setup, assembly setup, and here we can change the scale, the global scale of the assembly. I'm going to actually leave that at 1, as I always intend to change the scale on a step-by-step basic. So I'm going to show you how to do that as well in a little bit. You can change margins. I'm going to change these margins. Then default assembly orientation, we can actually ignore this, as in the previous episode I've talked about adding step rotations in LDCAD, because that is going to save you time in LPub3D. Now there's also the step numbers. You can change the font, so that this is the number on the top left, which indicates what step you're on. You can change the font, you can change the color, you can change the margins. I will usually only change the colors to my preferred color, and then hit OK, and we are done. Next is our parts list. So go to Configuration, Building Instruction Setup, and Parts List Setup. We're going to click that, and then we want to show the parts list. You can also disable it, and then you will not have a parts list, but we're going to keep it. Now for the part list color, I'm going to change it to a picture again, because I have actually a file for that. So I'm going to hit Browse, and then I have PLI. That's the color I usually use for my parts list. So just open up, and that is going to set the background of the parts list. Now for the borders, we're gonna change it, or I'm gonna change it, because I have a blue background. I'm gonna change the border to be blue as well. I'm gonna choose this one, just I hope it's gonna match the color of the background. Now for margins, I'm gonna keep it the same, and for constraint, I'm gonna keep it like the same. So I'm gonna just ignore those two. Next, we're gonna go to content. I'm gonna change the color to a lighter red, and that's it. And yeah, that's it for like changing that. Margins you can yet again ignore. Now we have the subsection sort submodel, and we are actually able to ignore this. That's great. Next, annotations. This is going to add the length of pieces on your parts. So I'm going to do display parts list annotations, and then I'm going to disable the annotation styles. And I'm going to change the text color as well. So I'm going to change that to another shade of red, because I do everything in red, and that's it. And I believe I have the submodel colors again, which we can ignore, and we have the styles. So this is the different styles. If we would enable annotation styles, you can change the styles right here, but I'm not going to use those, so I don't need to bother about that. And then we're going to hit OK, and what we can see is the parts list is going to change to what I set it to. This is just a single page, but what happens if we add another step, right? So we're going to right click, add next step, and then what we're going to see is that the model is actually really close to our parts list again, and that our step numbers are black again rather than the red I initially made. That is because this is a group step rather than a regular page, so we want to change the group steps as well. So what we're going to do is go to Configuration, Building Instruction Setup, and then Step Group Setup is what we're going to click now. And right here we're able to change the parameters of like these pages. So what we're going to do is step group margins we can ignore, parts list we can yet again ignore. Next you have step justification, ignore this. Submodel, I also usually ignore this. Step number, there we go, that is the number in front of this. We're going to change the color again, so we're going to change to red, hit OK, and that is the color of the number going to be changing. Now I also want to change the margins on the assembly, so what we're going to do is here we have the tab assembly, and then we have the scale again. We're going to keep the scale at 1 just like before, but now we're going to change the margins again to 0.4 and 0.4 on both of them. Default assembly orientation, yet again we can ignore this because we added the step rotations, and assembly margins I believe we don't need to change. We need to change assembly image, not assembly margins. So now we hit OK, and as you can see the image is actually further apart, further away from the parts list, and the step numbers are red again. So that was this page. Next, I believe, hold on, do we have more? I believe so. We have bill of material. I'm going to ignore that for now. We have a callout setup. That's a great one. This is a callout. I'm going to change it to it just being the images. The parcel is going to be on the left, and the background is going to be my own design background. So we're going to go to Configuration, Building Instruction Setup, and callout setup. So for the background, we're going to change that to picture again, and I'm going to change picture to callout because I've already made that before. I'm going to keep stretch picture. The borders I want to change to green because I have a green background, so I want green borders, and it also makes the arrow green. Margins we're going to keep the same. Divider is we're going to just keep it black. Now for the content, parts list, right now it says per step, and we're going to just disable that because we don't want that. And step numbers, we're going to be able to change the color again, and times used, we're going to change that color as well. So step numbers, I'm actually going to do a lighter one, and then times used, that's the wrong one, color, I'm going to change to the darker one again. So if you need a step number is of course this guy right here, but if you need a submodel multiple times, it's going to say like 2 times at the bottom right. That is what the times used actually means. Let's see, we have submodel colors, which we can ignore because we use a background, because right now we're in level 2, which would be the yellow if you use submodel level colors. And then content, assembly, we're able to keep, like, ignore all of this as well. So now we hit OK, and it's going to change our callout to new style, the style that I prefer. And first thing right now, what I want to do is I'm going to hit save. Just so I actually have saved all of these settings, because it also every once in a while this program does like to crash, so saving consistently is really useful. Now what I almost forgot is showing you how to save your settings for later. So what you want to do is open up a notepad right here. We have a notepad, and then right here in your code you have all this red text. You're gonna select all of it and copy it, so Control C, because this is your entire setup on how your pages should look. So if you open up a new model, you can import these settings, and you don't have to go through all the entire setup processes again. So you're going to just open up your notepad, you're going to hit paste, or Control V, and this is your setup. So, and I'll show you what you can do with that by just opening up another LPub, because hey, I have more. Hold on. And then I'm going to open up copy, because for some reason I did make a copy, don't know why. It's going to load everything in. As you can see, it does a little bit more. Now if I were to paste the setup here as well, and then hit update, it's going to change the entire setup like we have it in our other version, which is really useful if you don't want to go through the entire process every time you're going to make instructions. Another thing I neglected to mention in the beginning, working with this program, it takes time, and you, like, depending on the size of the model, you're going to work in this program for a couple of hours. I expect that for a model like this, it's gonna cost me about 5 to 6 hours to make the instructions. Anyway, now to setting up the pages. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna put enough information on a page that you don't end up with, in this case, almost 200 pages, but we also don't want to add too much that it feels crowded. We're editing this on a computer, but how many people would just take a tablet or a phone or a laptop which has a smaller screen, right, in order to view the instructions? Like, if you have a 24-inch display, yeah, it's going to be great. Just add more pictures. If you're using a tablet, it is really annoying. So that's what I want to keep in mind when making the instructions, right? So what we're going to do is right-click, add next step, because like I said, I want more instructions per page, and then I'm going to add another step because I have room left. And you could say this page is done. I'm not going to say that because I kind of feel like I can increase the size. Now there's two ways we can do this. You can right click, and I usually don't do this one, but you can right click and change assembly scale. Wow. And then you can change the model size to whatever size you want and hit OK. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take the file code 149 in which I have the codes for the scale and for assembly margins and different assembly margins already written down, and I'm able to just copy and paste. So I'm going to copy code, and I'm going to show you where to paste it in the code editor of the instruction setup. Like I said, yeah, the code editor, what you find over here, is really powerful and is really a tool you should learn to understand. I can't emphasize that enough. You should learn to understand. So how this works is right here. The lines with lots of numbers in them. So we have orange number, then we have some red numbers, then we have some blue numbers, and then we have a bold blue number with .dat on the end. These are the parts you find in your model. And then the numbers represent, the light blue numbers represent the position, and the red numbers, I believe, the rotation, if I'm not mistaken. So that's what this means, and then we're not going to change anything on that. But what we do see in between is a rot step or step. And rot step is a rotational step that we added in, and step is a regular step. And I'll show you what this means in a little bit. But for adding different scale, what we want to do is go on the line above the first piece, hit paste. So there we add our scale, and then I want to do that on all 3 steps, because I have 3 steps here. So I want to change 3 steps in the code editor as well. And then I'm going to say update. And now what you can see is absolutely nothing changed. That is because the program only updates the image if the image file is removed. So what we want to do is right click, then reset page assembly image cache, and it's going to give me some errors, but we can just ignore those. And now we're going to get 3 bigger images, as you can see. Now, as you can also see, right now it is too big, so I have to scale it down a tad bit. So I'm going to change it to 1.4 rather than 1.5, and that should just work. So I'm going to update, reset image cache again. I'm going to get 2 errors again. Don't bother with those. And now it should look fine. So we have an entire page filled up with information. Just 3 steps. If you look this, if you watch this one on a tablet, it actually looks fine. This will look good. Yeah, so that's how you can set up your page. Now what you also notice is the layout on the parts list changed. And we can actually manually do that as well. Just click the parts list and you have this little black box. You can drag it around, and then you can pretty much change the orientation or layout in the parts list to a specific size you want for the page. Now that I've done all of this, I want to save it, and then we're going to get the infamous rotating loading mouse cursor thingy. You can ignore this. I know it's really annoying, and sometimes you're just waiting for the cursor to come back, but this one will just keep on rotating and keep on rotating and keep on rotating. It is a feature that's built into LPub3D, which might actually be removed later on in future versions. Yeah, I don't think it's actually supposed to be there. It is just something that happens. So what we're going to do now is on the top, we have these green arrows with in between a couple of numbers, and this is current page index. It shows us where we are and how many pages in total we have. So it says we are now at page 1 of 193, but we're going to just hit the green arrow, say next page, and we're going to get back to our first submodel. So what we can do with submodels is we can put the submodels on a separate page, or if they're small enough, so I just right click and say add next step, or if they're small enough, like in this case it's just a differential, a two-step submodel, what you can do as well is create it into a callout on the main page. So we're gonna actually do that. So we're gonna right-click and then say convert to callout, and then it's going to take this step and create a callout, which has our nice green background and green arrow. Now I also want to change sizing again to 1.4. So I'm going to take my code 149 again, take my assembly model scale, copy the 1.4, and then import that into here. So we're going to first find the step, which is right here. We have a step. You see a multi-step end right there. That is our previous page. What we want to do is we're going to add our scale below that, and that is the scale for our main model, but I also want to change the scale of my submodel, right? Of my submodel, goddamn callout. There we go. In order to do that, what we're going to do is click one of the two images, in this case, of the callout, and then we're going to see that the code has changed. So this is actually the code linked to the callout rather than the main model. And here we can add our scale as well. So hit the assembly model scale local 1.4 on both steps. We can see another step in the right here in the back that we can ignore. Now we're going to hit update. So it's going to now update both the codes, and now we want to also reset a page assembly cache, where we're going to get those two errors again, which we can yet again ignore. And there we have it. This is our new page. But I mean, we can add another step to this page. So we just right click, add next step, and we're going to probably need to do the same thing with sizing. So here you can see it is actually yet again small. So we're going to add the 1.4 here, update and reset page cache. Now I actually get 3 errors, which is great. Like again, you can ignore those errors. It has to do with not being able to remove a certain sub file on the hard drive, but it doesn't need to remove those, so that's why we can just ignore it. And that's yeah. So this is now how the page looks. I have increased the size of the two images, or the 4 images, I should say. We have a callout with an arrow. Actually, we need to change the arrow as well, because it is. I mean, it is pointing towards the differential, but sometimes it's pointing towards a completely random direction, and then we want to change it. So what we're going to do is click the arrow and drag it around. You can just grab the little black box, you can drag it around and then place it wherever you want. If you want to point it the other way, you can actually do that. Now we're going to release it, and it is actually stuck in that position. But I don't want that, so I'm going to click the arrow and I'm going to put you back to where you belong. Now here's another nice thing. I showed you if I add a code in this code editor, or LDraw editor I should say, I hit update, the update button. If I do that, it actually also automatically saves the file. So right here we have a save button. It is now grayed out because the file has already been saved. So every time you hit update, you save your progress, which means that you don't need to worry too much about losing any progress you've made if the program actually crashes, because it is now, in this version at least, it is somewhat built in. Now I'm going to take you through one additional page at least for our basic basics on making instructions, and then after that I'm going to just go through with making the instructions, and if I find something that needs explaining, I'm actually going to start recording again. So we're going to do next step. So the green arrow on the top here again, and we're going to have to wait. So this, yet again, this is a 2-step submodel. How I know this is what you can see here in the code is we have some parts. We have a road step, and then we have 2 more parts. So that is just, and then we don't have any steps beyond that. So that's just a 2-step. Right now I'm going to actually instantly add my model scale. Like I said, on the top above the first piece on each step. And now I'm going to hit right click and convert to callout. Now this is going to actually show up really weird, where the first step is a smaller image than the second step, as you can see. And of course the main step is like the wrong size as well. So I'm going to change the main step again. But what we can see here now is we have the multi-step end, which is the previous page. So we want to go below that, and then we have the callout begin. Now this box is the callout, and we want to not mess with anything between callout begin and callout end. So what we're going to do is at the multi-step end we add our assembly rotation, and then we're going to get after that we're going to get the callout begin. Our scale is in here right now. I'm actually also going to add a scale to my next step, because I do believe that is one I want to add in here as well. Hold on, I messed up because I did not have the enter copied. There we go. We're going to add some more scales here as well. Going to update, then reset assembly cache, or image assembly cache, and it's going to make all the images bigger now. There we go. Because here I already had the assembly scale. Now what I also want to do is add next step, which is also on a 1.4 scale rather than a 1.0 scale. I have, yet again, it's going to be a callout. It is small enough to be a callout. If it was bigger, we're just going to leave it like this. Like we're going to pretty much treat it like any other page. But because this is small enough, I'm going to change it to a callout. So convert to callout. And then it's going to be another one of those green boxes. But like I said, if it's a bigger submodel, you don't have to change it to a callout. You can just add steps. Oh God. Yeah, that's not going to fit now, is it? But yeah, you can just add steps like we are doing with our main model, right? Anyway, this is not going to fit as you can see. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to see if I change this to a horizontal view, if it's going. No, it's actually not going to fit then as well, because if I zoom out, you can see it's already cutting off on the top and cutting off on the bottom. So I'm actually going to undo, and what I said, if the callout is too big, you can just leave it as a single page, like this. Just add step, and then say reset, because we have the first image which is the wrong size. And there we go. Now I'm going to save it first. And what I'm also going to do is right click and add assembled image to parent page. And I'm going to show you what that does in a little bit. And it is done. So now we're going to the next page, which is the 2 steps. And here you can see this is the added assembled image, because of course it is not initially, like it is not added in the like the first step of this page. I'm adding a assembled image just to show that is when you need to put the submodel into place. Now I'm able to move these boxes around. Don't do it too much, because you're going to actually change the look of the page. If you do that, I can zoom out. If I drag it out, it's going to... No, it's not. Sometimes with some objects, if you drag it out away from the model, it actually changes the position of the model as well. So keep that in mind. It might happen. Zooming in and out, by the way, just use a scroll wheel. And zooming so that the page fits is right here, fit visible. You click that and it is back to normal. So now what I'm going to do again is change my arrows so you can actually see them. And that is pretty much it for the first part. I mean, this should guide you through 80 to 90% on how to make your instructions. Like I said, paste your, that's not in here anymore, like copy your page setup to a text document if you want to keep all the settings, just so it is a little easier for you to start up new projects. And also the code 49, I actually suggest, like, every time, like, you might have not have noticed, but every time you add or change something, like you add an arrow or you add a submodel or a call out, is also going to add these text strings or codes in the editor, LDraw editor right here. Now, if there's a function you use often, for example, changing the scale, I do suggest also pasting those into a text document for easy later use. That's what I did here as well. There is some stuff in here that I don't use anymore. There's some stuff in here that I do use. It all depends on, of course, on the version. Like I said in the beginning, sometimes new versions don't give you the functionality that you used to have. For example, like I've had a problem with the previous version that I couldn't change the sizing of the parts list. And if that happens, it is always nice to have the code available to change it manually in the code editor. It takes a little longer. It takes a little more figuring out, but it is possible to do it by hand. That's all I want to say. So if you have code that you use often, try and save it. That's like really useful in, like I said, in future versions. Anyway, I'm going to skip to the next bit that I want to explain. And yeah, for you it's just a matter of seconds. For me it's maybe an hour or two. So I'll see you in just a bit. Now, you won't believe this one. This is actually the next page, and I already figured out a little something that I want to share with you. So this is the next page. I'm not going to share anything about this. This is pretty much the same frame I showed you before on the other side. But this page is actually really interesting. What I can do, I mean, I could, with this frame, add assembled image to parent page. I'm not sure what's going to look like if you go to the next page now. But most likely I don't like it, which in this case, yeah, I don't like. Maybe if I change it around to the other side. Does that work? No, it doesn't work. So undo and undo again, because I don't like how that looks. So what I'm going to do instead is to point out where the frame needs to go. I mean, it is obvious, but there's really, honestly, you have to account for the biggest idiots out there in the world. So we're going to make it a little more obvious. So we're going to do right click. We're going to do a right click on the image. Then we add a place. We place a page pointer. Then we're going to make it come from the top. In this case, at least, I usually make them come from the top. And we hit OK. Now what we're going to see is we're going to be adding a pointer, which we then can position to any place we want on the page. Yeah, so that is a possibility as well to point out where you need to put your submodels. As you can see, this place pointer, this page pointer is black, which actually save it. What I might actually work, bullet page setup. We have the borders. Let's say square corners, no lines, and we can solid line. Change it to green. Is that going to? Oh, that's going to mess everything up. Yeah, no, let's not do that. But that's how you can change the color. But as you can see, we have a square, a green square right here in the left top. That's going to be on every page now, so I don't want that. So yes, you can change the color of the arrow. You might actually get that little artifact that I showed you. Now the next thing I want to mention is this step. Next step is rotated compared to the previous step. Now what Lego always does is add a nice rotation icon, and that's what we're going to do as well. So we're going to right click the model or the image, and then we're going to say add rotate icon. And that's going to add this icon on the right, but that's not where we want it to be, right? So we're going to click the icon. Need to be careful where you click it, because if you click in the middle, you're actually not going to select it. So click the icon, there we go. Now we're going to right click it, because I want to make it a little more visible. So we're going to change rotate icon background from transparent, make it into a solid color, and I'm going to change it to white because it is easy to use. Hit OK, and then it asks if I want to change only this step, and I'm going to say no, because I'm going to just change all of those icons to white anyways, so why even bother saying yes? So we're going to click no. It's going to change to white, and now we can just click and drag anywhere on the icon to wherever we want it to be. And there you go, that's your rotation icon. Now save it, and you're good to go to the next step. And yes, that will always stay there. Don't worry, it will stay. Right. See this one? Yeah. Another one. This is a submodel. Yes, believe it or not, it is a single part, but this is a submodel which has only one part that I created to be a callout in LDCAD. So yes, you can actually take a single image, make that a single part, put that part into a submodel, and then that submodel can become a callout. So yet again, we're going to add a new scale. Just reset the assembly cache, and it's going to be bigger. And now we're going to just convert to callout. And what it's going to do, if it wants to show me, did I? Oh, there we go. This is also a thing that happens every once in a while, that the program stops responding. And now it's back again. There we go. So what I wanted to say is what it's going to do is it's going to actually make 8 arrows on a single callout. I mean, it looks cool like this, but it is like unusable pretty much. And then on top, of course, this image is still too small. So I'm going to actually first change the scale of the image and add the next image. So I don't always need to update. Sometimes if you add multiple lines of code, you are required to, because that might actually become problematic. This is another submodel that requires actually a little more explaining, I believe. Yeah. Oh god, this is gonna be one in like. Hold on, I'm not undo. Let's first focus on this one. Okay. So what we have here is a couple of pointers and a single image. What I want to do is just change it to like 2 or 3 pointers. So right here in the code, we actually see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines, which say callout, pointer, center, and then some coordinates. You can just ignore the coordinates. I'm going to change it to 2. So what I'm going to do is I just select 6 of the 2, hit delete, and update the page. Now it's going to delete 6 arrows, and I'm going to be left with 2. And in this case, we can drag it in any place we want. Did that image just update? It does look like it, doesn't it? So yeah, if you have too many arrows, you can actually easily remove all of them. You can do them separate by right-click, delete pointer, but I mean, like, the one is faster than the other, right? Anyway, let's save this one for now, and let's go to the next one, because like I said, this one requires a little more explanation as well, explaining as well. Add next step, and let's see what you do with the U-joint. So now we're going to actually see the U-joint, right? That's the one I wanted. So now what we can do is right-click, no, right click. There we go, right click and treat as part. That's the one I needed. There we go, treat as part. And now it is shown as an actual part in the parts list. And now if I believe if I convert this to a call out, it is still going to be shown as a part rather than 3 separate parts. There we go. Now in the PLI parts list, you can actually see a U-joint rather than the separate pieces. And that is it for this one. And I'm going to explain to you what rotation step does, or rot step. After the rot step, we have 3 values. The first value, 30, is the angle on which we look at the model. When it is set to 0 degrees, we're going to look at it like straight from the side. If it's set to 90 degrees, we're going to look at it top down. If it's set to negative 90 degrees, we're going to look from bottom up. And if it's set to, I believe, 180 or negative 180, it's going to be upside down looking from the other side. We don't want that. Yeah, but I'm going to keep that to 30 because that angle is correct. The second value we have is negative 135. That is the rotation that the image has. Now, if you want to change the rotation clockwise, we're going to add value to that number. If we want to rotate it counterclockwise, we want to subtract a value from that number. And just like the first value, it is actually set in degrees. So 360 degrees is a full rotation and 90 degree is a, well, you know how rotation works, right? Right. So that's the number we're going to want to change. And then the last number is, for example, if you set the first number to 180 degrees, you have to set the last number to 180 degrees as well, because that is going to flip the image back to normal or back to straight up. Yeah, but usually I try not to mess with the last number in case you're wondering. So what I want to do, this piece, I need to rotate it counterclockwise by 90 degrees. So it's going to be shown exactly the same as my other call out. So what I'm going to do is go to rotate step. The second value is already negative 135. I want to rotate it counterclockwise, so I have to subtract my value. I want to rotate 90 degrees. So I have to subtract 90 degrees from negative 135. And that gives me a negative 225. So I'm going to change it to negative 225. And I'm going to update. There's no errors, so that's good. We're going to reset page image assembly cache. We're going to get the pop-ups again. And now it's going to rotate our little call out to the correct angle. There we go. And now it's just a matter of pointing the arrows, of course, in the right direction, and we are done. So I'm going to actually get you somewhat on the same height and call it a day. So now what I'm going to do is just save it and continue. So here we have another nice situation. As you can see, we're building our engine, and in this way, like if I add a next step, it's going to go outside the pages. However, we're only using like a slight bit of the page, right? So there's actually you can actually add multiple rows onto a single page as long as you have room on that page, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use 6 steps. So right now I'm outside the page boundaries. And then on step 3, I'm going to right click and say add divider. What this is going to do is it's going to divide the page, or divide the steps into 2 rows. And then the divider is going to be in the middle of the page. So we're going to click that. And there you go. Now we have a little more information on the same page. So anyway, but that is what dividers are able to do. Here's another little trick I want to show you. If you have a call out like this, and you want, you can't really position it correctly, because if you put it like here, you might be afraid that people would miss it, and I should not have released it. And if you put it over here, it kind of doesn't fit, right? So what you can do is you can actually change the orientation on which the steps go. So what you can do is right click and then you say display callout as rows, and then it's going to change from a vertical layout to a horizontal layout, as you can see, and now you can just drag your callout to your desired place and fix your pointers. Here I've got another great example. On this page we have a submodel which consists out of 4 steps, but the 4 steps don't fit on the page. Now I could just remove the last step and have that on a separate page, but let's be honest, a single step like this on one page is kind of a waste of space, right? So I want to try and put this all on the same page, and I know it is possible, and I'm going to show you how you can actually make it happen. So first off, what we need to do is we're going to add a divider, just like I showed you before, and now it's divided up into 2 rows. What you need to keep in mind, however, when you add a divider, you right click the image after which you want to add divider. So if I right click the first image, say add divider, it's going to divide the page from the first image, and if I were to do it again at the second image, just say OK, it's going to divide the page yet again. Now I'm going to actually remove the first divider because we don't need that, and I can do that in the code, as you can see that I did that. Now what you can actually do with the parts list is you can actually change its position relative to the model. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on the parts list and then click change parts to list placement, and then we're going to get this nice little pop-up screen. You're going to get that one as well, and it has all these different options on where you can place it, and then you can change the position relative to the assembly, the page, the step number, or the submodel. We're going to change it relative to the assembly, and this is just a matter of trial and error. Let's get it inwards and say top left, for example, and we're going to see what happens. So if I hit OK, say change only this step. If you say yes, it only changes step 1. If you say no, it changes all these 4 steps. So I'm going to go ahead and say no, and we're going to see what it makes of it. Now this is absolutely useless, as you can clearly see. So instead, because now we need to move it up, the width is okay, but the height now is it is in the wrong height. So let's move it up. Say top left, outside the little box that you see here, and then hit OK again, and there we go. Everything actually fits on the same page. Maybe I haven't tried this one yet. Maybe this works as well, and no, it doesn't. So let's undo that one, and there you go. So I've page first step 1, 2, 3, and 4 with a divider in between, and everything on the same page, while initially it kind of looked like it wouldn't fit. So you can actually get more out of your pages in changing the location of your parts list. So we are at our final step. The instructions are pretty much complete. You can actually check out my time and figure out how long it took me. I believe it is actually closer to 6 hours. 5. I don't know. I haven't checked. Yeah, that's the amount of time it took me to do this. I didn't only work on this, however. I kind of did some other things in between as well. So, but that just gives you an idea on how long it can take. But now we have finished the instructions, but we don't have a parts list yet. So we're gonna want to add a parts list right now. Before we can do that, we need to insert another page. So right here you can go to edit and then insert page, or you can just click one of these, insert page right here, which is already in the toolbar. So just say insert page, and that is not what I want. Undo. It actually put a page before this step. So instead, we are going to do append page, I believe. Yeah, and then it's going to add a page after this step. So now I can click next page, and we are on an empty page. And in here, what we're going to do is going to edit and then say add bill of materials. And then we're going to have to wait a little bit. And here it is. It's actually, that didn't take all too long. I guess it's rather not that much. But as you can see, it is never going to fit on one page. And you can resize it by clicking, and then you get a little black box right in the middle. Now you can resize it. Let's make it about the height of a page, right? And then it's going to reposition itself, and as you can see, it is clearly not going to fit on a single page. So what we can do is we can actually right click, and this should be split bill of materials. So we're going to click that. Now it should insert another page, and it is actually splitting the bill of materials now in two parts. So now what we're going to do is we're going to resize this and see if it does fit on a single page. And it looks like it is not going to fit. And no, it's not going to fit. However, it's not a big issue because we can still adjust some settings on how this page should actually look. So what we're going to do now is first we're going to save it. And then I'm going to go to configuration, building instruction setup, and then bill of materials setup, because that's what we are working on right now. Okay, so now for the background, it says a solid color. I'm going to change it to transparent because I already have a background on the page itself. For the borders, we have square corners right now. I'm going to actually make this borderless because I don't need a border. Margins, we're going to be able to keep the same. Now when we go to the next tab, and actually let's just say OK and show you what I did. So all I did is just remove the white background and the borders. And as you can see, the parts actually already fit in the page. So that's actually rather nice. So, but first, we have a second page with more parts, right? And as you can see, this one doesn't fit. So we're still not done yet. So we'll go back to configuration, building instruction setup, and bill of materials setup. And then we go to the next tab, which is content. And here we can actually put in a scale with the margins, but we're not going to change margins. But we can change the scale. So as it is a bill of materials at the end, it doesn't really need to be the highest quality, right? So I'm going to change it down to 0.8, and I'm going to see if that is actually going to fit. So hit OK, and it's writing submodels. It is doing stuff. It is not the fastest because it needs to redo about all the parts. It needs to re-render all these parts, I believe. As you can see, it is writing submodels, and we just have to wait because that's how this program works. Just wait. Now it says it doesn't respond because I clicked, but just have a little patience and it should come back. And there we go. It took a little while, but here we go. We now have smaller images, but it still doesn't fit. However, we have now room left on the left and the right side of the parts list, so we can actually resize it again in the hope that it fits a little better. So let's try this. So I believe, yeah, there we go. Now it actually fits inside the page, and when we go to the previous page, nothing should really have changed other than that the parts are smaller. There we go. Previous page as well looks pretty nice. However, we're still not done yet, because in the parts list in the models, are we going to show it? Yeah, it actually shows us the sizing, right? But in the BOM, this is called, so final parts list, it doesn't. So what we're going to do is going to add those as well. So we're going to configuration, building instruction setup, bill of material setup yet again. Go back to content, and then we're going to click sort, and that is not where we need to go. We're going to go to annotations. We can just ignore the previous one, and display bill of material annotations, and then we're going to disable the styles, because just like before, the styles at the moment don't really work properly yet. And ooh, that's a new function for me. Display part element annotation. Let's actually try that. Do the bricklink annotation, because everyone uses bricklink nowadays. And color, I'm going to actually keep black and gray. So now I'm going to hit OK. And we're going to see how it's going to look. Probably I need to resize the parts as well. Finish writing, proceed. OK. OK. Yeah, we're not gonna actually put in the bricklink code, I don't think. It is a nice feature. Maybe for some next models of mine, I will actually do that. And what this pretty much is these numbers, if you type them into bricklink, let's actually see if this works. If you type these into bricklink, so 370526. So we're gonna load up bricklink real quick. If it wants to, yes. So what did we say? 37. I don't recall. 370526. This one. 0526. And as you can see there, it brings up the Technic Axle forlong, which I was actually looking at. So go back to LPub 370526 is a forlong axle. So these are the numbers you can use in bricklink to get the part. But I believe, like, these were numbers I was not expecting. So I believe that if we take the go to annotations, if we take the Lego annotations, is it not supposed to be, and hit OK? I thought I said bricklink annotations. Let's see if I can change it to bill of material setup, annotations, bricklink, OK. Because bricklink has different numbers. No, it doesn't change. So that one at the moment doesn't work, apparently. So, or maybe on the next page. Probably not. No. Nope. So, that one at the moment doesn't work, but the annotations you see now are, I believe, then the annotations that Lego is using at the moment. So we're going to go back into editing this and then disable that. And that's it. Now here we have the editing styles. This is yet again, if you enable style annotations, which at the moment, like I said, doesn't quite work, you can actually change the styles there. And then submodel colors, this is completely irrelevant for even bill of materials. So now we're going to hit OK. It's going to remove all those unnecessary numbers. And as you can see, I have to resize all the parts again, which is just, it is going to take some time. It kind of only is the second page. Yeah, I do actually have to do that. So configuration, building instruction setup, a bill of material setup, and content. Change the scale to, well, just 0.7, I guess, and then hit OK. And then I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you when it's done. And here we go. As we can see, it everything fits on the page now. So if I zoom in, this is zoomed to fit the page. Everything is actually fitted properly, both on the first page and the second page. The first page I didn't actually reload yet. So the BOM of the parts list, the bill of material list, in my eyes looks good. So I'm going to save it, and now I'm going to go to page 1. And we're actually going to add a front cover. So let it load. There we go. Now here we have, I believe, insert front cover page. So we're going to click that. And right now it is completely empty, which is nice. I'm going to save it for now. So now we're going to actually configure the front page. So we'll go to configuration, building instruction setup, and then page setup. Then we go to model, then title, display title front cover. We say we enable this. Come on, there we go. The content actually, description? No, cover image, model ID parts. There we go. We need to take the model and ID parts. So not the title, model ID parts. So display model identification. So we select that. There we go. The content, it is going to say 8880C model. Display parts, that is going to show you the total amount of parts used in this model. As you can see, it says 725. I assume it is right. I'm not going to actually count those. Usually, if I have a big model, which I am going to sell, I will actually count each and every page just to make sure. Like, believe it or not, I will actually do that. But for now, for this example, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to change the color because preference, of course. Actually, I'm going to make you a little brighter and I'm going to make you a little darker. There we go. And now we just hit OK, and it's going to add a title and a part amount. No, it's just going to crash. I mean, that's possible as well, because that's what LPub sometimes does. So we just reload LPub. Good thing I saved it beforehand, so we're going to open it again. It might have added the... No, probably not, because it didn't save. So let's try again. Page setup, model, ID parts. Try it again without changing the color. Let's see if it works. And it doesn't. So I guess we're not going to do that. What I am going to do, however, is... or should I enable the first one as well? I mean, at this moment I can just try, right? So page setup, model, display title, front cover. Let's just keep that. Cover image, I'm not going to do that. Description, I'm not going to do that. Model ID parts, try again. Colors, we don't care about those. Hit OK, because now I did do the title. And now it does work, for some reason. Don't ask me why. There's a little bug for you. Yeah. Now, I'm going to change all the colors. I'm going to change you to 8880 C model tutorial. There we go. Because it is a tutorial. And I'm going to add a description. This model is designed for... No, actually it is designed for making a tutorial on how to make building instructions. You enter if you are interested, you can find them here. Double dot, hit enter. I'm gonna actually grab my playlist and paste the address in here. Copy, paste. There we go. And I also want to change colors again. This one, actually, you can be disabled because I don't need you anymore. You can become the darker red, and the title has to become the lighter red, and then the description is actually going to become even darker. And now hit OK and see if it actually works, because I don't know. Actually, really don't know. And it does work, but I don't have a description, and it for some reason didn't remove him. I don't actually, honestly, I don't know where the description is going to go. But this is weird now, isn't it? As you can see, I usually don't bother too much with this. Display model description, and don't do identification. Hit OK. There we go. Okay, I have the description now. I lost my parts, and I still have the description. So model ID. I want the parts. I don't want the authentication. Hit OK. Yes, but I made a typo. Model description. The S should be on that side. OK. Please don't mess up. Thank you. There we go. Finally. Now I'm actually going to just drag them over to wherever I want them to be. Description over here. And the parts over there, over yonder. And now I'm God damn it. Are you friggin' kidding me? Undo. Put it somewhere where I don't know. There we go. And undo again. I wouldn't be surprised if he is actually linked to that one. Yeah, somewhat. So now it should work. Are you done? You are done. Okay, it works. Oh, okay, now I need to add a cover image. So what we're going to do is over here we have add picture, which is this nice little round button. We're going to click it. And then we're going to find my cover image, which we made in the previous video. We're going to open it. And it's going to be way too... Actually, I was like, it's going to be way too big. It is slightly too big, yeah. But we're just going to drag it in place and we're going to resize it slightly. Slightly. There we go. And then we're going to zoom in again. And there we go. We have our front cover. And that's how you make your building instructions. So now we hit save again. So now everything is saved. And what we're going to do next, our final thing, we're going to have to export the entire document, right? So what we're going to do is over here, export to PDF file. We're going to click that, say, excuse me, all pages, pixel ratio can stay the same. And then we're going to say reset all caches before exporting. That means it's going to... Actually, I don't need to do that, but I will. Resetting all the caches, which means that this is not the one I should show you. RAM disk, there we go. Whenever you open LPub, it is actually going to create a folder on the file that you opened that says LPub3D, and in here we have the assembly, and it has each image for every step actually written down in here, or like saved up in here, I should say. And that is the cache. So if we say reset all cache before exporting, it's going to remove all these images and redraw them while exporting. And supposedly, if we don't say that, it's going to use the images that are provided in here, and that would speed up the export process. However, I've had some issues with it in the past, of course, with previous versions. So it might work, it might not work. Mix size no rotation warning. Do not show mix size no. And that one we can just leave untouched. Actually, I'm going to try it without resetting the cache. So now we're going to hit OK. It's going to ask us where we want the PDF to be saved. So we are just going to save it where we should save it, which is the normal one. There we go. And I'm going to hit save, and now it's going to export all the pages. And this is going to take some time. I hope it's going to show you... No, it doesn't really. Sometimes it shows you that it isn't responding. If that does occur, just wait a little bit and it will just continue on its own. I know it seems like the program is constantly crashing, but believe me, it is not. Yeah, so but that again is when I reset all the cache. So we're gonna see how this turns out. I'm gonna see how it turns out. If it looks weird, I'm gonna reset the cache and export the file again. Anyway, this was it for LPub3D. Everything in a single video. I hope you learned how to use it now, and you are capable of making proper looking instructions, and actually messed one thing up. But that's on me personally. I'm not going to show you what I did because that is my mistake, and it has nothing to do with the tutorial. So I hope you learned you've gotten through to this point and you know how to make proper building instructions, or at least like high quality building instructions. And I actually hope to see some of your instructions as well in the future over on Rebrickable, because that's where I also always get my instructions if I'm interested. So yeah, that is pretty much it, and I'll see you in the next video as well, where I'm going to show you everything. That's great. God. Where I'm going to show you everything I do in Adobe Acrobat. So this is again, this is a error. Nested multi-step not allowed. Yeah, I'm going to fix this for myself. Honestly, I've never seen this error before. You should probably not have to worry about it. If you do find an error, what you can do is it actually shows you the file which gives out the error. So here it is, fake engine.ldr, line 4. So you just go right here. You have drop down that says main. You click it. You find the file that it says has a problem, and then you go and count the lines, which is in the beginning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then you go to line 4 and see what is wrong in that line. In my case, yeah, I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.